The online rhetoric I've seen about this show is absolutely astoundingly dumb. The Boys season 4, they just dropped their fourth episode. The first three episodes they initially dropped, I assume all at once. And then a week later, episode 4. Now, people had a huge negative reaction to the first three episodes as the character Frenchie, instead of having a romance with Kimiko that they've been, kind of building. And not like a pure romance. Obviously, the characters decided, you know, they kind of like each other, but they're friends, right? Which is fine. But if you're going to just get rid of that and just have one of the characters falls, all of a sudden Kimiko was just dating some random guy, underdeveloped, just all of a sudden she's in a relationship, sleeping with some random guy. Fans would be really frustrated with that because it's like, well, this is a slap in the face to this romance that we've been watching build and we kind of care about between her and Frenchie. But what they did was they did it that with Frenchie. They had him, all of a sudden he's just hooking up with some guy whose parents he killed. And it's so demented. First of all, they don't really get into it until season 4. And it's this guy just comes out of nowhere, and all of a sudden Frenchie, who clearly, like, yeah, he says some very provocative stuff that leads you to believe he was bi before then, but they've only developed him and Kamiko. So him, just boom, season 4 starts and this guy's in bed with this other dude. It's like, well, that's kind of out of nowhere, right? It doesn't matter the fact that it's a dude. No one cares about that. They care about this romance between him and Kamiko just evaporating, just no longer being there. It's kind of like Huey and Starlight this season, where they're just not really in scenes together. And if they are, it's just like greetings, small talk. All right, well, see you later. Hope your dad's okay. Just completely evaporated from the show, which is the real problem that people are having with season 4, especially with Huey's character. I think Huey is the biggest problem here because you kind of just, you know, I'm going to avoid some spoilers, but you have Huey's dad is laid up in a like vegetative state, coma, whatever, in the hospital, and a different character kind of comes in and it just overwrites his dad. It's like they just replaced his dad with someone else, with a different parental figure. And it's like, well, we actually care about Huey and his dad. We actually care about Huey and Starlight. We actually care about Frenchie and Kamiko. But all we're getting is scenes of Frenchie and some random guy. A random guy who Frenchie also, like, killed the parents of. Which is so out of Frenchie's character. Like, Frenchie's character the whole time has been this super kind guy, right? Like, he takes Kamiko under his wing and, like, sees the humanity in her more than any, like, none of the boys see it, but Frenchie does. And he's like this kind soul who has this really rough past, this, like, all this darkness in him, but he's like cares about his redemption, right? And so you're taking Frenchie down a really dark path really rapidly, right? You just start the season and he's banging a guy whose parents he killed. That is crazy. That is so cruel and evil for Frenchie to do. And it came out of nowhere, right? No one cares that Frenchie is bi. No one gives a crap. There is like so much gay stuff in this show. No one, no, like, in all throughout media. Like, it's Pride Month. Okay, we know gay people exist. We like, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. No one cares. No one has cared since like the 80s. Like, come on. Like, that's not the problem anyone has with this show. No one is 4 seasons deep into this show and they're like some prudish religious type, right? You would be crazy. You would be pretty bold. There's lots of anti-religious stuff going on in this show. And a lot of really greasy stuff. Literally the best episode of this show so far was Herogasm, which is just an orgy. I digress. Alright. So what other problems are there with season 4? A lot of these problems only exist in the first 3 episodes. I assumed they would course correct. Whoever wrote these first 3 episodes needs to be fired. But the fourth episode actually starts to tie in some of these things. Now, the reason why I make this video is because I've seen all this discourse online that is completely ridiculous. This idea that conservative fans of the show are like somehow butthurt by this character you see on the right, Firecracker, because she is like, I guess, somehow based off Marjorie Taylor Greene. And they've obviously been doing this Trump thing with Homelander, which really dates the show. You don't want to do this with any kind of piece of entertainment where you make it about like a very specific period of time. Like at the span of like a couple years, maybe even a decade, because then people aren't going to know what you're talking about. People aren't going to know who Marjorie Taylor Greene is like 10 years from now, right? Like, the whole theme of this show, I feel like, just flies right over these leftists' head, just as much as it does the right-wing people, right? Like, the right-wing people are annoyed because it's so hokey and false, but that's the point. It's a show about superheroes. They don't live in the same world. Donald Trump is not Homelander, right? Like, Homelander has superpowers and goes around murdering people constantly. This isn't Donald Trump. Like, oh my God. So the fact that the writers of the show just keep making him more and more Donald Trump, it's so stupid because it's dumb. It doesn't make any sense. So it's illogical. The whole point, what amazes me that people don't see this is this character on the left, right? Like, she is the smartest person on the planet. The smartest person. So she is helping Homelander basically like take over the country. Right now, I believe she has ulterior motives. I think that she's actually going to be like the big villain of the season. But she is helping Homelander take over the country by dividing the country. So it's exactly what she's doing, is trumping up Homelander and then like exposing Starlight and other people for being total pieces of crap, right? Like, you have the literal Democratic Party in this show is led by this crooked politician, right? I forget the guy's name, but he's like the president or whatever. Or is running for president. I don't even know. Like, because the politics of the show, the whole idea is that the politics of this show, that caring about things, what this character on the left here, what this woman, I guess it would be this side, things are mirrored with the camera, but her right there, her whole point of what's been going on in the show, what the show is telling you is that buying into this idea of celebrity, of hero, and of politics is detrimental for people, right? Because it's delusional, it's false, it's not real, just like Starlight blinding that woman. Starlight has done bad things. Everyone has done bad things, right? And you shouldn't idolize them. You shouldn't idolize Homelander or anyone. Like, especially look at what like Frenchie's doing. My God, like, everyone has a path. Look at Butcher. Look at any character in the show or anyone in reality, in the real world. The Democratic Party within the show is like this guy who's okay with like Starlight and the boys and Vought doing all kinds of crazy stuff. You have the woman who's like the leader of Vought, who's goes around popping people's heads off. Like, the Democratic Party, literally in the show, is corrupt and evil as could be. They are just evil, murderous, lying pieces of crap. But somehow left-wingers watch this show and they're like, oh, you really dumped on those MAGA supporters. Like, it's such a stupid take. Like, yeah, they take shot at both political sides. And it's so funny that the leftists can't see it at all, but they're out there all over the internet saying, oh, those right-wingers, they're so dumb. They just realized that the show's making fun of them. It's like, no, the show's been making fun of them for seasons. It's lighthearted. It used to be lighthearted. It wasn't the main like theme of the freaking show. It wasn't until the first 3 episodes of this season. It's like they ramped the Trump knob up to fucking 11 because they want to, I don't know, be cool and hip with the times. I don't know. It's very pathetic. It's very bad writing in the first 3 episodes of this season. I was cautiously optimistic that they would course correct, and they have, because in the 4th episode, they actually have been, they actually kind of start to show some of Homelander's past, the horrible, horrible things that he's been to. The point of this show, right? It's not that Homelander is Trump or Hitler. The point is specifically he's not. He's like a Holocaust victim. You find like they dive deep into this into the fourth episode, right? As he's just outright, openly, directly dealing with the torment and insane, impossible to comprehend levels of abuse. It's like he's a Holocaust victim, right? Who was subject to like all of the human experiments. And not just of like, I'm not just talking about World War II Germany. I'm talking World War II Japan. If you know, you know. The worst stuff like a person could possibly experience. And that was this guy's like entire childhood. It was just horribly being abused and experimented on. Right? Like this guy, obviously he's a murderous piece of crap, right? But you start to like see kind of why, like it's actually quite entertaining and interesting that they're actually like, you know, focusing on one of the main characters and not Frenchie plowing a rando. But my goodness, left-wing people, like, pull your head out of your butt, please. The show is not entirely dunking on right-wingers. And if it was, they are doing a very sad, pathetic job of it. Like, it's so hokey and over the top. Like, you gotta understand, like, it's so, like, not anything to do with real life. I guess it makes sense because where I'm seeing this is on social media, where there's like the most terminally online people are the people who talk about politics on social media. And it's like, how do you not see how the politics kind of distract from the show? And this new character is using politics to break the country apart, to weaken people. Literally, I don't know how you could watch this season 4 of this show so far and not come to the very obvious conclusion that the show is telling you is that things like celebrity worship, the characters in this show are literally have like movie after movie after movie. They are actors. They act in these movies. They're not actually saving anybody. They're just acting in front of a camera. There's a film crew. There's so many scenes of these superheroes talking to each other while they're like shooting this crazy movie. They like take a break. They're on set most of the time. The whole point of this, left-wingers, I don't know how you don't see this, is how dumb people are, how people worship these celebrities, worship Hollywood as this like fantastic thing. They make heroes out of these nobodies, like the Seven, and see them as like gods. They make them into gods in their own mind. That celebrity worship, that's pretty like primarily a leftist thing that happens. Like, oh my goodness. The show is pointing out how that is clearly detrimental to humanity. It just like flies right over left-wingers' heads. It's hilarious. The raw stupidity of the discourse of the viewers of this show. It is like so comical, right? Like, just as it would be insane for any right winger, any like MAGA person to have understood that prior to season 4 they were dunking on MAGA people, but like it's like the smallest, weakest dunks ever. And yeah, season 4 they ramped it up to a crazy level, and it really detracts from the show because, like I said, we want subplots, we want scenes between like Huey and Butcher and Huey and Starlight and Frenchie and Kamiko, which we are kind of getting, but like maybe even Frenchie and MM. Like, you know, we want to see the boys, not firecrack. You know what I mean? Like, come on. I just wish people could understand what the show's saying. And like, come on, there's so much of it is so obvious and right in front of you. But to take away from this show that political bipartisanship is the right thing to do, that the entire purpose of the show is to dunk on right-wingers. It's just a level of ignorance that boggles my mind.